Yeah. All right, perfect. Let's get this show on the road. All right, so let me log in, get everything set up, and we are ready to record and get moving. We have added some new stuff to the little chat windows and stuff. So let's be having you loading up my Evernote. So I've got my notes ready to go. All right, let's go. First of all, welcome back. This is episode 136 of Together BHA. This is our first show after the season is coming back from pre-season. We've just finished pre-season. All eyes are on Burnley now, and we have a shit ton to get through today. We have just about everything. For those of you that are on the video stream, I have a list, a ticker running along the bottom of everything that's going to be coming up. So we have loads going on here. You can come see me at Together BHA on YouTube, Together BHA on Twitch, Together BHA on Twitter, Together BHA on Instagram. Wherever you want to be, I am there. Would love to have you all. And let's get started. So first of all, the Euros. The Euros was a great adventure this summer. I know that as most of you are probably England fans, you had a great time as well. We exceeded all expectations, I think. And despite some early games looking a little bit poor, the team came through and we were very, very unfortunate not to win the entire thing, I thought. Obviously, a huge amount of things to look forward to for this England side. We're only a couple of weeks away, a couple of months away from World Cup qualifying. We are not too long away from the 2022 World Cup. So, all in all, lots to look forward to on that side with England and the Euros. And of course, Ben White making his first appearance for England as an Albion player and his last. But yeah, I was very happy to see it all. I thought they did really well. Not only that, but first of all, Patreon subscribers. So thank you to the Patreon subscribers who kept with me all the way through the summer when I was doing nothing at all. That is very good of you. Too good. Stateside Seagulls, Tom Shelley, Ezra Thompson, the winner of Fantasy Premier League last year, John Fitzpatrick, Nick Axford, William Montgomery, Sarah Ellis, Daniel Lawrence, and Nick Murray. Thank you very much for subscribing over the summer. And I'm sorry that I didn't do anything. I just took some time off. So thank you very much for supporting me. I'm on Twitch and YouTube right now. Hello, Re-Up YouTube. Good to see you. We will address some of your comments that you're making right now a little bit further on in the stream. But thank you very much for tuning in. Let's start with the incoming. So as I said, I've got a little ticker going on the bottom of the screen here for the Twitch stream and the YouTube stream. And the agenda is this Euro 2020, which we've just touched on real quick, new signings. So we're going to be hitting the new signings, the outgoings, of which there has been lots. We're also going to be looking at the Premier League movers and shakers, right? So a lot of this is similar to last season. We're going to be looking at big money moves in and around the Premier League. We'll also be planning the points haul. We did that last year as well. We'll be looking at teams in and around us and teams that we should be taking points from. We'll be taking a look at preseason results, what to expect from Potter in 2021 and 2022, players to watch, in my opinion, some possible transfer targets, and then, of course, some Fantasy Premier League chat as well. So, first of all, let's talk about transfers. we've made 3 so far. 1 first team signing, 2 not so much. One of them is Jeremy Sarmiento from Benfica. He is signed as an under-23 prospect. He's only 19. He was originally from Charlton, but snapped up by Benfica when his contract ran out. We signed him on an undisclosed/free. From my research, it seems like nobody can decide whether we paid anything or not. So I'm not sure there either. If anybody knows differently in the chat, do let me know. He refused to sign a new contract in Portugal. He wanted to come home to England. So that was wonderful. He is good to go there. And Albion were the ones that got him. They chased him very early on when they realized. Excellent, great scouting and discovery by the Albion, as per usual. When it comes to these youth prospects, the Albion are obviously very good at knowing and earmarking these players, Jakub Moder, Karbovnik, and others. And we got him on a 2-year deal. If he is to get a longer deal, I would expect to see him in the senior squad by next summer. And I'll tell you why. He is 19 already. He is not a 17-year-old signing that we can hopefully bring through slowly. He's a 19-year-old signing that has had sniffing around from other places as well. So, to me, it's a good young Moneyball signing, a young Brit that adds to the homegrown talent, which always helps. And, he's going to help out that under-23 side that are going through a pretty significant transition. Our other signing that was kind of a backup definitely a backup, is Kjell Scherpen. Undisclosed deal, what's supposed to be around 5 million, I think, from all the reports in Holland. Very much a backup keeper. Very young signing again, though, only 21. Presumably, we will be saying goodbye to Christian Walton as expected last season, and Scherpen might well become the number 2 quite quickly. He is getting ahead of myself here on the preseason chat. He has just received an ankle injury, so maybe not so much anytime soon. In terms of the signing, it seems that Potter clearly has a type. Out with the 5'10" Matthew Ryan, and in with the 6'6" and 6'7" Big Bob Sanchez and Kjell Scherpen. He likes his boys tall in net. Clearly, he thinks that is something that he likes to work with. So he has gone ahead and brought in Scherpen as well. He made 3 appearances for Ajax last season, 1 in the Europa League and 2 in the main division, Eredivisie, but was on loan at FC Emmen the year before at 19 in their first ever season in the top flight. So he has had 1 full season of Eredivisie football. And according to Who Scored, had a pretty good season. He had 2 man of the match performances, secured safety, and conceded 72 goals. Now, for the people listening and watching, that sounds like a lot. But to give you some perspective, even teams finishing in the Euro spots, so even teams finishing in European football spots in the division, actually finished with 68 goals conceded in 7th place. So outside of the top 4, 60 plus goals conceded a season seems to be the standard. So to me, I don't think that's too bad of a season for Scherpen. So good for him. Now on to the main signing of the season here. Enoch Mwepu. I hope I don't murder that poor guy's name because he looks like a fantastic player. The one big signing so far this season, with the likelihood of him being in or around the first 11 to be very high, especially given what's been going on in pre-season. Stats Bomb, Smarter Scout, etc. All of these, these big analytical websites that, sell all their research to these clubs and stuff are all massively high on him and his countryman Daka, who went to Leicester as a striker. So what do we know? We know he is nicknamed the Computer, which was a wonderful unveiling with that old school PC on the BHAFC Twitter line. It refers to his aforementioned ability to compute what is needed in the multiple positions he finds himself being deployed in. So his intelligence in tight spaces, the way he can see a pass and makes it long before anybody else can be burst onto, that area is a reason why. Now, that's all well and good in Austria and for Zambia. It's going to be very interesting to see what that looks like in the Premier League. Is it simply that he's at a Premier League standard already? Or is it that he's actually really is above that? He first burst onto the scene with his performances in the Zambia side, which, from what I can gather, brought a lot of excitement to the 2017 Under-20 World Cup that was in South Korea. Zambia qualified by virtue of winning the equivalent Africa Cup of Nations tournament as a youth side, and they soon showed that they were not in the main event simply to make up numbers. Zambia have been a pretty interesting side for the last kind of 10 years. I remember them winning the African Cup of Nations for realsies not too long ago in the last kind of decade. After winning Group C in that Under-20 World Cup, they finished ahead of Portugal, Costa Rica, and Iran. Portugal obviously being a pretty massive name to finish ahead of there. Zambia pulled off arguably the biggest shock of the tournament by eliminating Germany in the second round. Mwepu was on target in that win. They eventually fell to Italy in the quarterfinals, but on a personal level, and the main one that we all want to hear about, Enoch Mwepu came away from South Korea with 2 goals, 2 assists, and a move to Austria in the bag. So he got himself a transfer like many of these breakout players do around the world when they perform in a national level. And he started at FC Liefering, the team that we had a friendly with just a couple of years ago. You remember them? And very quickly got promoted from them to Salzburg. They are a feeder club for Salzburg. He went on to win a lot of silverware for Salzburg. Over the course of the next 3 seasons, he became one of the most important players for Salzburg, along with Daka, as they won their equivalent of their Bundesliga and their cup, their FA Cup double. They won the double in 2018 and 2019, and then 2019-20 and 2021. So he's loved to win trophies. The most recent cup triumph just before we went ahead and got him over to the Albion. He scored in the first round, the second round, twice in the semi-final, and in the final, where they breezed past their finalist opponents, LASK 3-0. With 4 assists in the cup run, he actually did more than anyone else. He was the MVP, as the Americans love to say. He was the player of the tournament to help his side to their 8th triumph in the competition. He is very, very versatile. He is an attacking midfielder. He is a central midfielder. He is a holding midfielder. He's a left winger, a right back, and a centre back. He has scored 14 goals and claimed 9 assists from 37 outings on the right. A return that most genuine wingers, out-and-out wingers, would be incredibly pleased with. Smarter Scout, which is a great website, they actually compared his numbers to prime Angel Correa, Atletico Madrid, prior to the Simeone bringing him in and kind of going a lot more defensively. That's insane numbers. Most recently, he, for Salzburg prior to moving, he did get a real taste of Champions League football and was highly impressive there. No player made more successful pressures than Mwepu in the elite competition. He had 166 pressures, of which 53 were successful. He was pretty much 50% for dribbles completed at the top level, which is massively impressive. He had 4 dribbles leading to a shot, 21 shot creating actions, 13 out of 16 tackles won, 13 fouls won. He's also shown that he can mix pressure in with creativity to good effect, right? Racking up 4 assists and 11 Champions League career appearances. And this isn't for a super team. This is for Salzburg. Frankly, I have no idea how it snapped him up. In the same way we got a hold of Jakob Moda, who was already starting to burst onto the scene. I can't believe that we managed to get a hold of him. Re-up YouTube in the comments, the Zambian GOAT, and he will be in the first 11 100%. And I think that you're probably right. After the preseason, I can't see any reason why we're not going to be seeing him, fully in the side. He's pretty much started every single preseason game. I have seen a lot of people online asking if he is a replacement for Bissouma, and I've been saying no all the way through. And if you see me post like dream formations online and stuff, I've always been putting him as an attacking midfielder on the right-hand side. So if we're playing 3 at the back with wing-backs, that kind of 5-2-2-1 that we've been playing quite commonly with 2 behind Mopai or Welbeck or whoever, with Trossard and Lallana over there, I suspect we may see something similar, and we did see something similar against Getafe. I think we're going to be seeing a lot of players playing in positions we're not expecting. But when you have that kind of output as prime Angel Gurria, I think it's only natural for us to play him a little bit further forward. So I think we are going to be very happy with his output. And he may be just what we need. I think that what we needed was more attacking outlets. Trossard has been tasked, especially last year, to be that prime person alone. So to partner him up with someone as talented as Mobu may well be the perfect maneuver. Reop YouTube in the comments says that there's no way Biss will go, and I'm primed to believe you at this point. I don't see him going anywhere. We do have a couple of outgoings for the first team. Some of them bigger than others, but let's talk about the outgoings, shall we? Let's talk about Davy Proper. He's headed out to PSV Eindhoven, undisclosed fee. From what I can gather, it was just a couple of million, but a good deal to get him off the books. Just never really made it in a Potter side. Proper didn't make it. Andrew Crofts, his contract expired, and he's now moved on to coaching. The main kind of level with under 23s. He's now the kind of head coach there. So that was a kind of logical and nice move for Andrew Crofty to move on. He's been on the podcast before. Great guy. Jose Izquierdo, much to my sadness and devastation, has left. He has now had his contract expired and will be going elsewhere. As of right now, I've not seen him sign for any other team. But if anybody who's watching this or listens to this podcast on Monday can tell me that he's already moved somewhere, please do let me know. Teddy Jenks, very intriguing defensive player, has moved to Aberdeen on loan. Alex Cochrane has gone to Hearts on loan. He was at USG last year. He's now gone to Hearts on loan, so that's a good move for him. Ryan Longman, striker that has gone through the divisions with us, he's gone to Hull on loan, so that's good news for him. I like the loan moves for the young players, and that's a high quality of football, Aberdeen, Hearts and Hull. And then Victor Gyökeres finally left the club after many a year. He has finally gone to Coventry on an undisclosed fee. Matty Ryan has confirmed his move to Real Sociedad for an undisclosed fee. Carl Rushworth, one of those young goalkeepers that has been coming along with a heck of a reputation, has gone to Walsall on loan. Another one to keep an eye on in the lower leagues there. Jan Maklar has gone to Hajduk Split for an undisclosed fee. Never made it. Didn't really impress with QPR when he was on loan there either. So that's kind of sad. But at the same time, he wasn't really doing a great deal. Alireza Jahanbakhsh has left the club as well, finally. That is one that has been kind of conversed about for weeks and days and months and years. He is now finally kind of given up on making it as a Premier League player, and he has gone back to Holland. So he is out of here. We have a couple of others as well. Danny Cashman, Reop YouTube, in the comments says he's headed out. Yeah, we released him last year. He has just signed for Coventry and promptly gone straight on loan to Rochdale. So best of luck to him. We also have let go of Ben White, obviously the big one. The obviously right the massive signing that we've kind of had outgoing. Massive because he is the biggest fee we've ever received for a player in our history. The price of football, Kieran Maguire, top man, obviously, has let us know that actually we have let him go, and the £50 million fee is more than every transfer fee we've ever received before combined. That is how big it was for us. 50 million in the bank, like he said, like we're seeing in the comments, 50 million in the bank. Add-ons as well, not to forget, there are rumored to be add-ons as well as a sell-on percentage as well. Unbelievable sale. You know what I mean? Like, will we miss him? Of course we will. He's received an England call-up. He's a good player. He's obviously, he's done everything he can at this club. He's gone all the way up the divisions in that kind of developmental system we have, and he's a quality player. But do we have backup already set? Absolutely. Joel Veltman, Dan Burn, who's now injured, but Joel Veltman, Ostergaard, who's sticking around the club, Shane Duffy may well be making a comeback, which is bizarre. We have a lot of very young, very talented players that are ready to make the step up if we need to. The key point here is really just reinvesting that Ben White money smartly. I think he's going to do really well for Arsenal. I no hard feelings. I mean, we barely seen him, right? For a lot of fans in the UK, you never even got to see him play live unless you managed to get tickets to the 1 or 2 games that they had last year. I think we had Man City and there was another one at Christmas. Was it Chelsea or Tottenham or someone like that? I'm sure there was one game around Christmas where they opened up for one game and then we got locked back out as well. So excellent stuff for Ben White. I wish him all the best. No hard feelings. And an early Fantasy Premier League conversation. Ben White is a superb investment for 4.5 million on that game. You've got to imagine he's going to be starting week after week for that team. And you've got to imagine that 4.5 million in the bank, easy centre half, set and forget for me. Arsenal, sure, go for it. Percy Tau. Tau is also going out supposedly on loan maybe to Al Ali, but we don't know 100%. The one thing is it's definitely something that's in the chat, right? Because Potter pretty much all but confirmed it yesterday that there are talks ongoing. So for me, fine. Like, he never really made it either. It's sad, but it is what it is. He never really seemed to have, it to work out in the Premier League. So it is what it is. Good luck to him. I hope he does really well. I'll always have a soft spot for him. But he just didn't make it. And without being too rude, I'm not going to be sad at the South African contingent of super angry fans leaving our social media, because they are just an absolute pain in the ass. So if it means getting rid of him, it looks like we're gonna turn a small profit on him as well, with a loan to buy if that's what goes through. I am here for it, frankly. That's fine by me. So next one, the Premier League movers and shakers. Let's take a look at the signings we've seen go on all around the place, because we have had a lot of moves going around this season. You would think that the European Super League, right, and everything coming through, and everyone saying like, oh, like that's, they obviously don't have the money to spend. If they're wanting this European Super League, they must be really struggling. Bollocks. They have loads of money. They're spending it like absolute crazy. They are not messing around at all. We have seen some massive moves already this season. We've seen the big clubs all signing big boys. We've seen Arsenal have signed Lokonga, which is a central midfielder from Anderlecht, I believe. Reason why I consider this a big mover and shaker for the Albion is because this is a very Bissouma style midfielder. Arsenal were a team looking at the player. It was pretty open whether it was just agent talk or whether it was more. Bissouma were of interest to Arsenal. They have now gone ahead and signed Lokonga instead, who is very much a Bissouma type player. Whether he's going to reach the heights of Bissouma or not is to be seen. Personally, I don't think many will. But that's a big signing for us. It means that there's one less team looking at him. Aston Villa. Aston Villa have been on an absolute freaking madness for the last couple of weeks. They have gone absolutely nuts. They signed Buendia just a couple of weeks ago, which was obviously a huge signing at the time, 30-odd million in the bank. They've gone ahead and got him in. They went ahead and pretty much just absolutely ruined Norwich from the outset, because that was Norwich's best player and they've took him away. So we'll be looking at that when it comes to relegation. They've also gone ahead in the last couple of weeks and just gone mental. Ashley Young from Inter Milan on a free. He had kind of revitalized his career at Inter. He's going to be a backup option, I suspect, for Villa. Leon Bailey from Bayer Leverkusen, very talented wide midfielder. The Jamaican fella is very good at what he does. Superb signing. And Danny Ings, out of nowhere, just this week, they've gone ahead and got a hold of Danny Ings from Southampton for an undisclosed fee. Absolute mental. Like, where the hell did that come from? Palace. Palace has signed a couple of different players. But the ones that really stand out to me is Michael Elise from Reading. Very, very good player from what I can gather. And I suspect that's going to be a really inspiring kind of bring through for him. He could end up being a really good addition. Leeds have made a couple of good signings in the summer. Jack Harrison, they finalized the Jack Harrison signing for an undisclosed fee, which was a superb bit of move. They signed Junior Firpo from Barcelona. They paid 13 million for him. I'll be honest, don't know anything about him. But if you're signing someone from Barca for 13, 15 million, so it may well end up being a good signing for them as well. Leicester have reinforced incredibly well. Patson Daka, Ryan Bertrand on a free, and Soumer from Lille. From what I can gather, are all very talented players. Daka has already started to bang in goals in pre-season. Not that it means much to me, but some excellent signings for Leicester City there. Manchester United blowing money out all over the place, absolutely wasting money on Jaden Sancho, 73 million. And I say wasting money because I just don't think that a player of Sancho, I just don't think he's worth it for Manchester United. And the reason why is I don't think Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is good enough. If he was playing for somebody else in a different system at Pep, a Klopp, I think he would go on to be one of, if not the player of the season. Jaden Sancho being signed for all that money at United worries me simply because he is an England player and I want them to do well, but I don't rate Solskjaer whatsoever. Not great. Grealish to City is another massive signing, over £100 million in the bank for Villa there. They're still making like £180 million loss because of the amount of money they're spending. But Jack Grealish has gone to City. Very intriguing to see how that works out for him. I wish him all the best. I'm a Jack Grealish fan, except for when he plays against us, because he's just an absolute shithouse. He's similar to Mopai, right, or Knockout. You hate them if they're not playing for you, but when he plays for England, you love him, right? Because he's going to cause a lot of problems for everybody else. So that to me was a great move for him. It's going to allow him to continue to grow. And with the World Cup coming up, there's no way in my mind that he's desperate to get there and get some proper look in as well. Elsewhere, we've had a couple of extra signings coming in and out that may well be relevant to us. Danny Ings losing. Saints lose. Danny Ings is a big one. Saints went ahead and signed Livramento, who was supposedly an Albion prospect that we were going for from Chelsea. We were not willing to sign the buyback clause option. So we went ahead and dropped out of that. So to me, it depends on how you feel, right? I think we desperately need a right wing back as backup. I don't think Pascal Gross is a right wing back. I definitely don't think that Joel Veltman should continue to be exercised as a right wing back when we've just lost Ben White. We could do with a right wing back to replace / cover for Lamptey, and Livramento seemed like a perfect option, but we lost out. So if you're kind of happy with the idea of not spending, letting a buyback clause come in, that's fine. But at the same time, would you rather have a player that you may lose for £15 million profit in a couple of years' time, or would you rather simply just not have a right wing back at all? Because as of right now, we don't have a right wing back at all. So it's a tough one for the Albion. Burnley have been very, very, very quiet. Brentford, very, very quiet. A lot of these teams around us haven't done a huge amount of business this summer. I feel like Burnley never do a huge amount of business. Crystal Palace, again, only a couple of players in. Everton brought in Damari Gray for £1.6 million from Leverkusen, which I thought was a great signing. Kind of sad that we weren't in for that. I think that would have been a good move for us. But in terms of notable exits for us. So there's also a lot of people that, a lot of teams that are going to be in and around us this season that we need to keep an eye on. So in terms of notable exits for us, players that are leaving clubs that are going to help us, half of Palace's squad are gone. So that's good. Like, bye-bye. A striker I pinpointed in a prior podcast, Taiwo Awoniyi, has left Liverpool for Union Berlin. Keep an eye on him. He was a player I thought looked very good and could well do a job for us, but he has left for Union Berlin, who are, I think, pretty much off the back of their best season ever in the Bundesliga. So keep an eye on that young prospect striker there as well. Sergio Aguero, he absolutely loves to score against the Albion. He's gone from City. Whether he's even going to be allowed to play for Barcelona is to be seen. With the mess that's going on there. Christian Atsu, he's usually crap for Newcastle. And for people going, what the hell is that? How is that a notable exit? It seems that Christian Atsu only would turn up once a year for Newcastle, and it was always to have a great game against us. And he's gone. So bye-bye. Buendia has gone from Norwich. He's their best player. I'm on for the opinion. I genuinely think Norwich may well be a weaker team than they were 2 years ago. Ings being gone from Saints is huge. They are a team that, to me, you've got to think are in a bit of trouble as well down there at the bottom. And you can't simply replace a player like that. Watford, they've not really made any signings either. They've made a bunch of them, but nothing that really stands out. They look kind of just like championship signings. Josh King being the only exception where we may well see some performances out of him, but they've got to try and keep him fit. So good luck to them on that one. Next up on the list of topics we have here is splitting the table. So where is the points haul coming from? So planning the points haul, this is a big one. And last year I did the same. And what we're going to do is we split the table into a set of groups. And it went really well last year, and I thought I would do it again. The crux of this split is to understand where 38 points come from for safety. So I have 4 sections for the teams this year: the top 6, the best of the rest, the wild cards, and the relegation candidates. Over the season, we should look to get the following from these teams to stay up on roughly 38 points. So before, there was 5 sections. There was a top 2, and then there was a next 4. We don't have that anymore. We have a full top 6. We have seen a big closing of the gap up top. Liverpool are not the juggernaut they were 2 years ago. United, Leicester, Spurs, they've all made some great signings. Chelsea as well. So for me, the top 6, we should be looking to take 1 point from each of these 6 teams: Manchester City, Liverpool, Manchester United, Leicester, Spurs, and Chelsea. If we can take 1 point off of each of them, we're well on our way in terms of getting that points total of 38 if we need it for safety. Obviously, I'm hoping that we'll earn a lot more points than this and we'll be well on our way to safety without having to worry about a 38-point target. But to be honest, let's just go through with the list that we've got. We have a list called Best of the Rest, and we only have 2 teams in this one, and that is Everton and Arsenal. Never in any danger of going down, in my opinion, especially not this year. But for me, we want to take 1.5 from each of these. So an average of 3 points from these 2 teams. The thing is with Everton is that, and I don't know how careful I've got to be here because I don't really understand what's going on with the Gylfi Sigurdsson thing. But with the Gylfi problem, and Fabian Delph is currently all over social media posting anti-vaccination conspiracies, you have to wonder just how cohesive Everton are going to be this season. And that matters a lot for the Albion because Everton have already had one season where they flirted with relegation with Marco Silva, and they managed to get themselves out of trouble. So, although I have them on the best of the rest as a team that, aren't going to be in relegation danger, this is a list I made 2 weeks ago before the Sigurdsson thing and the Dell thing came out. So, maybe they even should be considered a wild card because new manager, Rafa, obviously a great manager in himself, but Rafa in, Sigurdsson with the problem he's had, Delph with the problem he's had. It's one of those, I don't know what's going to happen with them. So keep an eye on Everton this season. They could be one of those shock relegation candidates. Wildcards. So we want to take 2.5 points from each of these teams. If we take 2.5 points from each of these teams, that's 10 points in the bag from this group. And we are looking very healthy there as well. Those wildcards are Aston Villa. Yes, they've spent a ton of money, but they have just lost their talisman in Jack Grealish. So you can spend all the money in the world and not replace a player that good. Tottenham, great example. They sold Gareth Bale and the Magnificent Seven did jack shit. They signed all those 7 players and they've all since left. So Villa are in that wild card list for me for that exact reason. We also have West Ham United in that wild card category. We don't know what they're going to be doing, right? They're a team that one year can be in that top 7, top 8, and then the next year they can be down in amongst the relegation mix. So it's tough to call. Moyes has done a great job, both kind of rehabbing himself and everyone else, but it's just really tough to know what's going to come from West Ham year after year. So we shall find out there for better or worse. Wolverhampton Wanderers, they've lost their manager. They've lost a couple of their key players, but they've also got a couple of key players coming back, like Raul Jimenez. But they've lost Rui Patricio. They've lost Nuno. You just don't know you don't know what team is going to come out for Wolves again. They were a strange team last year, even under Nuno, and they are, I think, going to be a very strange team this year as well. And then Leeds, the final of the wild cards. I know a lot of Leeds fans will be upset with that because they expect themselves to be finishing top 4. But the reality is nobody knows what second season syndrome is going to do to Leeds. Bielsa, obviously a superb manager, world-class manager even, but can he continue to produce the magic he has been with this Leeds side? They haven't made a huge amount of investment this summer like they did last year. They haven't made that many changes to their side. Will this Leeds side be able to keep that momentum going and finish kind of top 10 this year? Or are they going to be hitting a Premier League brick wall and go further down the table? It's impossible to tell. They're going to be one of those second season teams that you have to keep an eye on. And then the final list is the relegation candidates. So for me, including ourselves, there are 3 teams from this list that are going down. Saints, they've just lost Danny Ings. They, as of right now, haven't reinvested it, obviously, because it's only a couple of days ago. But Danny Ings is gone. It's a huge loss for Saints. They're going to be in and around that bottom 6. Norwich, again, they've made a couple of signings. They've done all right, but there's nothing there that makes me think that they're stronger than they were 2 years ago. They've lost their best player in Buendia. They've made a couple of signings, Billy Gilmore on loan and a couple of others that may be okay, but we don't know. Nothing tells me that they're going to be a better team this time around than they were 2 years ago. So for me, relegation candidates. Brentford have to be. There's nothing else to be said about Brentford. They are massive underdogs to stay up this year. Brentford are not the best side in the world. They've got a great cohesive group of players. Ivan Toney is going to be very interesting to see how he does in the top flight. And a couple of other players, it's just going to be interesting to see how they all do. But there's no doubt in my mind or anyone else's that Brentford have to be in and amongst the relegation conversation. Watford as well, low-hanging fruit. I know 3 relegation candidates from the 3 promoted teams, but Watford, again, they don't particularly look any stronger than they did when they went down. Yes, Ismail Assar has had an extra year and a half of English football. Other than that, not much else. Josh King is a great player if they can keep him fit. They've got a new manager that's not played in the Premier League before or managed in the Premier League before. It's so tough to know, isn't it? Like, I don't know. Watford are going to be down in and around it, I would guess. Newcastle, as somebody else said in the comments re-up YouTube, Newcastle have made 0 signings this season. So if you think it's bad, as an Albion fan to have £50 million in the bank and not signing anybody, Newcastle have signed no one at all. They are on 0, nil point. They have made no inward moves all summer long. And Callum Wilson is injury prone. St. Maximin is injury prone. They are definitely going to be in and around the conversation for going down. And the final one is Palace. You've got to consider them a relegation candidate now. They have just lost, half their starting 11. Patrick Vieira has came in as manager. I was a massive fan of Patrick Vieira as a player, but as a manager, he's done nothing to impress me whatsoever. So good news for us Albion fans. I think he's going to flop, and Palace are going to be in deep shit. I don't see a way that they're not going to be in and amongst the mix. They made a couple of good signings, but that can only take you so far when you have a bad manager, in my opinion. So if you get 3 points from each of those, you are well on your way as well. And at the end of the day, you should reach around that 38-point mark if you can take those points from those teams. For me, my bottom 3 prediction is Norwich, Brentford, and one of those Saints, Watford, Newcastle, Palace, and us. I do think we will be in and around the relegation mix, and I'll tell you why shortly. Next up is pre-season. So if you know anything about me in the podcast, I don't put a lot of stock in pre-season. I'm not a huge fan of it. I don't think it means anything compared to what other people do. I really don't. I just don't think it's that big of a deal. I think that it's just not. It doesn't show what we're going to be doing in this division this year in preseason. One of the best preseasons in my memory was under Sami Hyypiä, and look how that ended up. One of our worst preseasons in memory was the year we got promoted in from League One to the Championship under Gus, and it was one of our best performances ever. So, to me, preseason is not something I have a huge amount of time for, but we do want to cover it simply because it does give us an idea of what that starting 11 looks like. So we've had a few behind closed doors friendlies, which were, hit and miss. From what I could gather, we lost most of them to teams that are in the lower divisions. We played a lot of under 23s, and there wasn't a huge amount of, worry going on there. Rangers, Luton, and Getafe were the 3 major teams that we kind of played as official friendlies. Rangers, we played 2 different 11s, very much a run out. It was heartening to see Bissouma playing. Kadra looked impressive. Ostergaard looked impressive. Unfortunately, the front men were pretty poor, but it was very clearly a fitness friendly and not a tactical one that I expected to see against Getafe. I expected Luton to be very much the same in terms of more of a fitness-based friendly, and we were right. We played a slightly stronger team, but we did make an awful lot of substitutions. We played really well from what I could gather, much more superior in attack, which was great to see. Dangerously error-prone at the back, though. Duffy looked rough. Ostergaard looked very good when he came on. I really do hope to see Ostergaard get a shot with us this year. We had goals from Wepu, Connolly, and Tau. Funnily enough, Tau is buggering off, so that was a waste of time. And as predicted in the Luton game and the Getafe game, Wepu played more of an attacking central midfielder role, primarily on the right-hand side, not a Bissouma replacement, as many thought. I'm telling you, he's going to be an attacking midfielder, and he's going to do really well. Burn went off injured. Sherpen looked hurt. And ironically, our centre-half options looked a little light at the end of this game. But thankfully for us, come Getafe, We had Lewis Dunk and Adam Webster back fit and raring to go. So that's 2 of our 3 central defenders back and good to go. Veltman is still fit, so we're good there. This one was much more of our kind of tactical run out of how to break down teams that are bigger, stronger, fitter. Getafe had already played 6 preseason friendlies prior to this, so they were very much a level ahead of us in terms of preparation. And it showed. And sadly, the Albion weren't up to it. We got beat 2-0. We played a lot of good kind of link-up play from what I can gather from the people that were there, especially, and from what I could gather on the commentary. We played a lot of good, pretty football when we had the ball. We dominated possession at times. We missed a hatful of chances, a couple of good saves from the keeper, and then conceded 2 set pieces. So again, I don't really put too much stock in preseason. It is what it is. Like I said, I've seen some good ones where we've had shit seasons and some terrible ones where we've won promotion. So for me, not too worried about it. I am slightly concerned about the fact that what we watched against Getafe is exactly what we watched all year last year, with nobody scoring goals and us conceding at set pieces. So that was not great. In terms of preseason, other than that, we didn't really have much to touch on. Again, I hope to see Ostergaard doing well. I hope to see him get a chance. And again, Taylor Richards is an interesting one as well. I would like to see him maybe get a shot. Next up on this lengthy season preview, what to expect from the season, Albion-centric. So what can we expect to see from this Albion side? We are going to go to a short break so I can have a drink and sort my life out, and then we will be back to take a look at what to expect from the Albion. We have what to expect from the Albion in terms of formations, players to watch, players that may suffer, transfer targets, predictions for the season, a Burnley preview, and then Fantasy Premier League as well. So that is what's coming up after the break. So I will be back shortly. All right, people, we are back. Let's get this show on the road. So, we have got some extra stuff to go over. First of all, we are looking at, we're about halfway through what we've got going on the podcast today. So, let's get started with what to expect from the Albion formation-wise, what to expect from Potter. This year. He has a lot to go on. So, what to expect from Potter in 2021, 2022? First of all, last season, we played 13 different formations, according to who scored. 7 of them with 3 centre-backs, 6 of them 4 at the back. The majority with 3 at the back, which is clearly Potter's preference, with a 3-4-2-1 style formation being his most often played. Looking at this information is why I considered Mwepu is going to end up playing as one of the 2 in the 3-4-2-1 if we play that again. I suspect Mwepu will play in that 2 alongside Trossard. Looking at the signings we've made and seem to be looking to sign if they ever go through, it appears to me like we will continue in that vein exactly. For me, I think we need to be expecting a 3 centre-back formation with Veltman and Ostergaard battling it out for the Ben White spot. Webster and Dunker obviously nailed. They're not going anywhere. But I would expect Veltman and Ostergaard to be the players battling it out for that final spot. Wingbacks are clearly hugely important to Potter. After 2 seasons, we've seen this over and over. If we do go ahead, we tried to sign Livramento, it didn't go through. If we do go ahead and sign Cucurella, which now seems very much on the fence, their manager came out yesterday and says he believes he will stay with them. He does have a release clause, so if Albion activate it, it doesn't matter what they do. But of course, they can come in and offer him a new contract too, right? They're capable of doing that. So Cucurella, a couple of weeks ago, looked nailed on to be signing for us. At this point, it looks very 50-50. But if we were to sign him, we would have a very exciting duo of wingbacks on the left with Solly March and Cucurella out there to go after it. Again, as I said, Mwepu is not the Bissouma replacement. He's going to be playing as the one of the 2 behind and alongside the striker. I would expect if Potter was able to pick a fully fit squad from the 11, I feel like it would look a little bit like this. I think we'd have Sanchez in goal. I think we'll have Webster, Duncan, Veltman at the back. I think we'll have March or Cucurella on the left. We'll have Lamptey on the right, Bissouma in the middle, Lallana in the middle, Trossard, Mwepu, and Mopai as our main formation. That's genuinely what I think it would be if they could do it. Obviously, Lamptey is hurt, and who knows when he'll be back. It sometimes feels like if ever he'll be back. He's just taking setback after setback. It just makes me wonder, just how bad it is. And, they're now saying it will be October at best. He went back into training, had a setback and never came back. So it really sucks. In terms of the players to watch this season, there are a number of them. And for me, I think we have some really exciting fights to go on. Enoch Mwepu, we've already gone over why. I genuinely, from preseason and from his prior performances, I genuinely expect him to set us alight with chances. I think he's going to contribute goals from midfield, which is desperately needed. I think he's going to be a great signing. I really do. I think he's going to be really good for us and one to watch. Neal Mopai. Now, if you're listening to this or watching this and rolling your eyes, hear me out, right? Neal Mopai is going to be a player to watch this season. And I'm of the opinion, personally, that the XG curse cannot possibly strike twice for this lad. He scored double figures his first season and he was shocking last year. And his XG was the 2nd worst in the league compared to goals scored. Only Tino Werner was worse. It can't happen again, surely. if we do not sign another striker, here's my bold prediction. If we do not sign another striker, which I wholeheartedly believe we should, I still think Mopai is going to score 12 goals this season. I genuinely think it. I don't think he can be as unlucky as he was last season again this season. I just think he's going to have to get something. And that's a player to watch for me. And then the other one is Bissouma. Need I elaborate? When we signed him, I said that we would sell him for upwards of 60 million. I remember saying it on one of the early podcasts. I said that he's a hell of a signing. And I think we are going to see him be sold from us for upwards of 60 million. For me, this season is going to cement that price tag. We've already been talking 45, 50 million for him. This season brings him above that 60 million. I think next year we're going to sell him for so much money. It's unbelievable. Alex, note in the chat, putting out the idea that maybe no crowds affected Neil. Will be interesting to see what he is like with crowds back. I would agree with that. From what I can gather, he successfully pissed off the entire Getafe squad in 20 minutes of being on the pitch yesterday with 7,000 fans behind him. He is that kind of player. I wouldn't be at all surprised to see you being absolutely correct that he is a player that excels with a crowd behind him. It's going to be interesting to see on the other side of things as another players to watch this season is the wing backs in general, especially if we do go ahead and sign Cucurella. I'll tell you why. Sorry, I almost choked on my own spit. I'll tell you why. Solly March is a player that has been bandied around by a lot of people as a player that benefited greatly from the lockdowns. He was supposedly a player that really benefited from not having fans getting on his back. And I agree with them. I agree with those people. I put it on this podcast. I said I thought that they were right. It's going to be interesting to see what happens when A, fans are all back. B, he's now got some genuinely competitive competition in Cucurella if we sign him. And how he can live up to that now he's already had the season he's had without fans there. It's going to be very intriguing to see how that wing-back fight works out. Lamptey on the other side, if he can just get himself fit, he could still change our entire season on the turn of a whatever. Like, he could just change everything for us if he can come back and be actually fit. So for us, the wing-backs are going to be key. I don't think that that's exactly huge news. I think that we've been needing that for a long time. And it's pretty clear from Potter's perspective that the wing-backs are incredibly important. In terms of the losers, so players to watch are all good. But there is another thing going on that we don't talk about at all. At least I haven't seen it talked about. And that is the center of midfield war that's going on behind closed doors right now. We have an insane amount of central midfield options currently. We have Jakob Moda, Adam Lallana, Bissouma, Mwepu, maybe, even though I've got him as an attacking midfielder, Pascal Gross, Alexis McAllister, Steven Alzate, and Moises Caicedo. Some of these players are going to be very disappointed with their minutes this season. And we have a lot of very young, very talented players in that list. Jakob Moda, Bissouma, Alexis McAllister, Alzate, Caicedo. I think it's going to be very interesting to see how some of these players react to not playing when they think they should, and how it cultivates competition in the center of the park. Bissouma was the first player on the team sheet next to Lewis Dunk, right? Like, he's going to be playing. Every single game is fit. So if you're playing a 3-4-2-1 style with two central midfielders and two attacking midfielders, you've already lost one spot from the word go with Bissouma playing there. If you wanted to add those attacking prospects in as well, with Trossard, Tau, although he's about to go, and a couple of the others we have, the midfield war becomes even worse. You've got 3 spots available, and you've got Jakub Moda, Adam Lallana, Mwepu, Gross, Alexis, Alzate, Saicedo, Trossard. Who else is there? Kadra has shown he's obviously got some talent as well. There's a couple of others. Let me think. No, can't think of them. They're kind of youth prospects that I'm thinking of. Aaron Connolly, even. We're going to be having a lot of players that want to play and aren't getting minutes. It's going to be very interesting to see how they adapt with their minutes this season. I just don't think anybody's talked about it a great deal. It's something that should be. Andone as well. Yep, he's been playing. He's able to play that kind of the one behind the striker and kind of bounce off of that main striker as well. So, I mean, he did it at Watford with great talent at the beginning of 2 seasons ago before he got shipped out to Turkey. And it's going to be interesting to see how that war goes on. I don't think anybody's kind of earmarked it outside of this pod, but it's going to be something that's going to be very interesting to see how Potter manages his people. Transfer targets. Well. We are at a situation where we are 3 weeks away from the start of the season, and we have yet to sign the elusive striker. We need one. I'm not accepting any discussion saying we don't. I am beyond blown away that we actually genuinely have people think that we are fine with what we've got. We are not. It is very clear to everybody, both statistically and on the eye test, that we do not have a striker capable of scoring enough goals to keep us up comfortably and push us to the next level that we want to go talk about. We want to go to the top 10. We need to sign a striker that can get us to the top 10. And that's not currently part of our team as of right now. So Odsonne Edouard has been a player that's been bandied around from Celtic, very young, very talented. Lots of Celtic fans have been saying that we can have him. They haven't been impressed with him lately. They feel like he's kind of got lazy and is more interested in getting a move than he is from playing with them. If he can play like he did for them when he was bothered, great signing. But as of right now, Andy Naylor says there's nothing in it. So who knows? Darwin Nunez once again comes to the forefront. Benfica player. He had no interest in moving to us 2 years ago from Almeria. He had no interest. He turned us down because he actively didn't want to play for Brighton over Albion. Why on earth we're going back in for him is beyond me. It just seems like a losing battle. It seems stupid and naive of the Albion to go after him when he didn't want to come in. If he doesn't want to sign for us, don't let him sign for us. If he doesn't want to play for us, don't try and sign him. What a waste of money to sign a player that doesn't want to be here. It goes so much against Albion's ethics and Albion's strategy when signing players. I'm convinced it's agent talk, just pure agent talk. I know that Naylor and others are saying there's something in it, but I am so blown away by the stupidity and naivety of the Albion if they actually are doing that. Why would you want to sign a player that actively doesn't want to come to you? Even if we finally get a deal agreed with Benfica, he's going to say no anyway, or we're going to overpay him. And then we're considering a problem where he's now the highest earner on the field and playing like shit, because he doesn't want to be here. That's a huge risk that Albion don't take. That's not something we would ever do. Paul Onuachu, my boy, is still scoring goals for Genk. He has a £20 million price tag, 27 years old, still banging in goals for fun. He's picked up this season where he left off. It's a no-brainer for me, boys. Just sign him. £20 million. And you know he's going to score goals because he's already scoring goals for fun. He scored in the Champions League this year. He scored in the Champions League 2 days ago. Get him in. It's mind-blowing that we haven't. Nico Gonzalez, we tried to bring him in. He picked Fiorentina over us, understandably. It's tough. We need a striker. Everybody knows we need one. And we are yet to sign one. So it is what it is. We need wing-backs. Cucurella does seem to be the man top of the list for the left wing-back role. And I would be very happy with that signing indeed. Right wing-back. I still think we need one. Obviously, Livramento was the number one target. Didn't come through. I still think we need to try and go ahead and get one. It's not something that you can just keep going ahead with, Veltman and others hoping to keep it up. We do have a couple of other options out there. I'm sure there are a bunch of them. So, hopefully we can get that sorted out. The other one is maybe we just turn around and if we do sign Cucurella, do we maybe just put in Solly March at right wing back? Is that something he would be capable of doing? And having best of both worlds and having both play while we wait for Lamptey to come back? I don't know. Gabriel from Benfica. I was trying to remember his name. Gabriel from Benfica is a midfielder we're apparently in for. We just talked about the centre of midfield war. So I'd be very, very surprised if we go ahead and look to try and sign a central midfielder from Benfica at 27 years old on loan. So I think that's bollocks as well. In terms of other transfer rumours, that's about it. There hasn't really been anything else talked about. Eduard, Nunez, Cucurella, and randomly this Gabriel Benfica midfielder, which doesn't sound right to me at all. So it's all gone very quiet. We have £50 million in profit from Ben White. We have, a lot of money in the bank from previous deals. I understand that people are going to get upset because I shouldn't be spending Tony Bloom's money, but I'm not. I'm just talking about the fact that we have a lot of money in the bank. And to me, if you're really wanting to become a top 10 team, you need to back the club and you need to back the team. And as of right now, that's not something that's quite happened as of yet this summer. So something needs to be done. Whether it will be, we'll never know. Hopefully that's something that, we'll know at the end of the season, at the end of the month, rather. Jesus Christ, I can't get my words out. So we'll see. For me, we need a striker more than anything else. We desperately need a freaking striker. So let's see if we can get one over the line. Next up, Fantasy Premier League. So let's take a look at some of the Albion options this year. First one that stands out is Robert Sanchez at only 4.5 million. That is a heck of a price for someone who was one of the best goalkeepers in the entire division last season. It was obviously only for 2021, but he was absolutely excellent for the team. And to me, I think you're absolutely crazy if you don't have him in your starting group. That's a set and forget for me. Robert Sanchez, bish bash bosh, in you come. Beautiful. Easy peasy. Other options from an Albion perspective, there are a couple of them that stand out actually that look really nice. Joel Veltman, still only 4.5. He's going to be playing a lot of minutes this season as long as Lamptey is hurt, in my opinion. Tariq Lamptey, only 4.5. When fit, he could, over the course of the season, if he was to come back in October as a 4.5 million defender, Tariq Lamptey could end the season as a 5.3 million, maybe even 5.5 million defender. He could be that good if he could get a full season in after October. I think it's an incredibly good piece of price to keep an on a watch list when he comes back. Bissouma, 4.5 million. Again, super cheap midfield option that we all know is going to be playing every minute of every game. He is excellent bench fodder for us. Easy peasy, set and forget. Again, Solly March is a frustrating one. He played almost every game at left wing back last year and is considered a midfielder. 5.5 million is a great price for him, but he's going to be playing left wing back again. And to me, I think that's an absolute disgrace. Like, there's no way he should be playing as left wing back, like as a midfielder in this game. It's a shocking take. Wepu is only 6.0. If he can produce like we think he might, that is a great piece of business if you were to get him in, if he was to play as we think he will. Neil Mopai, 6.5, bit too expensive, I think. Danny Welbeck, 6.0, way too expensive for a player as injury prone as Danny Welbeck. And Aaron Connolly, 5.5 million, again, way overpriced for a player that doesn't score goals. So for me, for the Albion, if you're wanting to get 3 players in, like you want to cover your Albion fandom in Fantasy Premier League, Robert Sanchez, Joel Veltman, and Bissouma for me. Dirt cheap, easy to fill the gaps, easy peasy. You love to see it. Get them in. No doubt in my mind. Get them in, and you'll be well on your way. I think that There are a couple of options out there other than them that you'll probably have a lot of fun with. But I really think that that's a really good set of options available to you if you wanted them. I think you've got great options there available. Other players to take a look at in the Fantasy Premier League sphere. Ben White, obviously. 4.5 million, just moved to Arsenal, will almost definitely play. Tony, who plays for Brentford, 6.5 million. I think that's a really good investment. Pepe, here's a random one. Nicolas Pepe, he finished the season on fire. He started preseason on fire. He's only 7.5 million. Like, he is my dark horse for this season. I really think he's going to do well. So, for me, keep an eye on Nicolas Pepe, because I think he may well be a good signing. Bruno Fernandes, Salah, to me, you have to have both. Callum Wilson, 7.5 million. Excellent player. Talisman for Newcastle. I think you've got to have him. Luke Shaw for Manchester United. Got to have him too. 5.5 million. I think he is absolute suicide if you don't. In terms of those kind of template players that are owned by just about everybody, there are a couple of players in there. Ivan Toney is one of them. You've got to have him. If you don't, you're in deep trouble. Same goes for Alexander Arnold. 30% of football managers in Fantasy Premier League have Alexander Arnold. You've got to have him in the league, in the division. Salah and Fernandes, both almost 50% owned. You've got to back at least both of those. You've got to keep yourself in the mix with everybody else. So yeah, Fantasy Premier League. Our league is once again open. I have posted it on Twitter once or twice. I will post it again. You can join the league at any point in time. It's called the Together BHA Podcast League. We do have a code to join this league that's coming up right now on the little banner thingy-majiggy. You can go ahead and get that added in if you need to. GD820F for those of you not watching the video and instead tuning in to the podcast audio tomorrow. Come and join. There's prizes for the person who wins. Ezra Thompson won it last year, won £50 worth of merch from the club shop. He chose a vintage shirt and a couple of other bits and pieces. So you've got literally nothing to lose. There's no entry fee. And I just gave you a couple of ideas of players you could bring in as well. And yes, if you are in last year, thank you, Alex. If you were in last year, you will get automatically added to the league this year as well. It's the exact same league. I haven't made a new one. I've just renewed it. So you'll be able to get added straight in and you'll be able to go ahead and crack on from where you left off. So feel free to get ahead and get added in. Final note before the preview for Burnley. Predictions for the season for the Albion. To me, as of right now, we are 3 weeks away from the end of the transfer window. So everything I'm going to be saying here, you need to treat with a pinch of salt because there is a lot that can change. To me, I don't see any reason to expect things to go greatly different to last year. I expect us to be similar, if not exactly the same. Reason being is we've not made any changes to be any different. We've lost Ben White and we've brought in Wepu. We haven't particularly progressed, but we haven't regressed. Some of the teams around us have progressed greatly. Some of them have not progressed at all. Burnley knows, one or two signings that don't look like they're going to do a great deal. Newcastle, no signings at all. Teams around us, Norwich, lots of signings, but not really anyone that stands out. Watford, lots of signings, not anyone that stands out. Brentford, 2 additions. I don't see any reason to expect a great deal more than last year. For me, if we can stay up, I'll be delighted. If you today, as of right now, today, offered me 17th place, I'd bite your hand off. Bite your hand off. I don't see any reason to expect us to not be in a relegation scrap this year. And that's just the way it is, right? Like, that we haven't spent the money we need to and invested in the squad. Yes, there is a lot to be said for some of these players getting an extra year of growth. And I understand that. Especially the youngsters, Moda, Bissouma, Alexis McAllister, Alzate, Saicedo. Kobovnik, all these players. I get it. But there's nothing to be said about where we're going to improve. And to me, for us, I don't see any difference between now and then. So fingers crossed, we'll be talking about a slightly different prediction for 3 weeks later at the end of August. Fingers crossed, we'll be talking about slightly higher ambitions. But we are just on time because we are here for the Burnley preview. So we do have the opposition view coming into the chat shortly. So it's going to be interesting because we were just talking about Burnley a little bit earlier in terms of some of the signings they've made or not so much and what we can expect from them this season. We did, and I know Dan is listening. We did have you all in terms of the relegation candidates in and amongst the rest of us with Saints, Norwich, Brentford, Watford, Palace, Newcastle, us, and you. So let's add Dan into the stream. Dan from the Turf Moor House. Can you hear me? Okay.
I can. How are you? Are you all right?
Yeah, I'm good. How are you?
I'm okay. I'm not too bad. It's raining. It's dull. It's exactly how you expect Burnley to be.
You love to hear it. Great. So we were talking early on in the pod about the recruitment of teams around us, the movers and shakers, and how it affects us. Some of the big ones, Buendia leaving Norwich, obviously is a huge blow to them. Danny Ings just leaving out of nowhere.
I don't know where that one came from. That was just so out of the blue.
Surprised everybody, didn't it? Yeah. In terms of the Burnley stuff, there doesn't seem to be a huge amount of marquee signings in terms of Burnley. What are your thoughts so far on the Burnley window and what it looks like?
I think as a Burnley fan, you just become sort of accustomed to the fact that every window is a shocking window. I mean, last season said it all for me. We signed a third choice goalkeeper that was last season, the season before last, on loan at Ipswich, and we've seen him play and his positioning's awful. We signed, obviously, Dale Stevens from you guys, who we wanted 4 years ago. And, we know all the transfer thing that happened with that. He wanted to leave because we were after him. And then at the end of the season, he comes out and he's like saying Burnley's all sorts of stuff. And and now it's just, he's not the player he was. He's definitely not. We don't really rate him when he comes on. I think you can hear the groan from the fans. It's loud enough as a collective. But I mean, we spent 12 million on one player, which is, 11.25 more than what we spent last season. Obviously, Hennessy on a free. I mean, it's good, solid backup, especially we're sending Peacock Farrell out on loan to Sheffield Wednesday. But we need something else. If James Tarkowski's to go before the end of the window, you've only got Collins. Who do you then have as a backup from the bench, apart from Kevin Long, who's been here too long, in my opinion? We've got one right winger at the moment. We named Aaron Lennon as a trialist the other week, and then I know he played for us before going off to Turkey, but apparently Dash didn't want him to leave, which to me sounds like he wants him to re-sign, which, okay, it's another body in the camp. Don't get me wrong, it's another body in the camp, so I can't grumble at that, and it's not cost the club anything. But for a new chairman and everybody to come in and say, Sean Dash will be backed, he'll be given what he wants, I don't see much delivery, in my opinion.
Yeah, it seems that way just from the outside looking in as well. In terms of last year, I don't know what your thoughts were. What were Burnley expecting going into the 2021 season? Obviously, it was a really weird one. Everything behind closed doors. Everything was just totally. It was almost like a fever dream for the majority of it because it was so strange. But again, there wasn't a huge amount of movement in the window, but that was kind of likewise for everybody. No one really did anything. And you ended up finishing over 10 points clear of the relegation zone, albeit still in 17th, 2 points behind us. So, we weren't much better. What was your hope for last season? What were your thoughts on it in terms of what you saw there?
I mean, going into the season, we were plagued with injuries. We had Ashley Barnes out. Chris Wood had a couple of niggles here and there. Our two centre-backs weren't 100%. So we started the season with like Jimmy Dunn, Kevin Long at the back, and when you're a team that's pretty much built on a solid defensive unit like me and James Tarkowski, it crumbled. And to have 2 points after 7 games was appalling. Not that I'm expecting, us to take 3 points off everybody, but we expected a bit better than that. I don't know. A lot of fans looking at it from outside think, does Dash bring a lot of the youth players onto the bench to prove a point? As though like, look at how threadbare we are. But I don't know. I mean, this summer he could have changed that, and at the moment it's not looking that way. But yeah, last season I honestly thought we were gone. Last season it got to about probably coming up towards the start of December, and I thought, here we go. This is the season that we go, unfortunately. And then towards the back end of the season, we had a bit of a run. We went a bit further up the table, and we're like, oh, brilliant, that's it, we're getting out of this now. As we do every season, we sort of just pull a run out from somewhere, which is always nice. Everybody says the same thing. Sean Dash is that sort of manager that he'll always pull you out of somewhere, no matter what. But on the flip side of that, the results against Newcastle and Southampton back-to-back were appalling. After that, where the 4-0 against Wolves came, I don't know where that result came. I mean, it was much needed because, you go 2-0 up at St Mary's against Southampton and still lose the game 3-2. You go 1-0 up against Newcastle on your own ground. They bring St Maximin on and he just changed the game. They ended up winning 2-1. So 2 games that you've took a lead in and you've thrown away. I thought, hold on a minute, we're not out of this.
And I started Fulham too, all of a sudden starting to go on a run, which was terrifying for me as well. They all of a sudden started picking up wins in February.
It was scary. It absolutely scary. And as soon as they started, you started seeing the fact of they were winning, and you're checking, and you're like, oh, it's 18.5 minutes, and that I think that was Fulham's downfall in the end. Obviously, they conceded a lot of late goals, which didn't help. You could see the look on Scott Parker's face at times, like, oh, really? But I'm glad it wasn't us. I bet you were glad it wasn't you guys either.
Absolutely.
Especially after the football, that you get lauded for playing under Graham Potter. It's you sort of expect better of position wise, but yeah, for us, I honestly thought it was the season we were gone. And to get that win over Fulham and the 4-0 win over Wolves, I think after that, the games against Liverpool, Leeds and Sheffield United, which we lost, which then took us, to 17th. It's one of those. You've done the penultimate. You've stayed up.
Yep.
Heads on the beach. So
yeah, I agree with you. So this year, like you said, you haven't done a great deal in the market. Still 3 weeks to go. Like I was saying earlier, for us, we've obviously got the Ben White money, which we're hoping is going to be spent. Which Burnley haven't had any big sales like that lately, but I'm sure you're still hoping for some more investment.
I'm still waiting for us to spend the 30 million from Michael Keane, to be honest with you.
Goodness. There should be some nice interest on it, at least, do you think?
Yeah, definitely.
It's been hanging around. What are your thoughts for this year? What are your hopes, dreams, and worries for Burnley this season? I mean, we're still 3 weeks away from the end of the window, but what are your thoughts on this year's prospects for the team?
I was almost sort of positive, but then I sort of tried to break it down over the last couple of days and thought, we've had the same squad, season in, season out now. I mean, I think we've only just got rid of Jimmy McIlroy. That's how old our squad is. We're talking about years. There's fans out there that are still expecting us to reach, when we did that imaginary sort of season where you just were like, what? We finished in Europe? How? And there's a lot of fans out there that still think, well, that's the same squad. Why can't we keep doing that? I mean, at that time, we were punching above our weight. You've not seen Leicester win the league consecutively after it either. So, it's just one of them things that happens. We just got lucky. But this season, I don't know whether to be, I'm confident, or whether I'm not. I'm sort of just sat riding the wave of, I'm taking that Sean Dash mantra of each game as it comes.
I mean, I guess you got it right. Like for us and you and a couple of the other teams that we talked about earlier on, like a lot of us just haven't moved forward a great deal. We've just kind of stayed static, and the pandemic was a huge thing for us, especially. Like, we invested a lot of money under Chris Hughton, and then Potter comes in, totally changes the entire ethos of the team, and most of those players were then not Graham Potter players. So the 150 odd million that we spunked on Hughton players now was wasted, essentially, and we've had to sell them for peanuts, and we're now being bitten on the arse for it, really. And from your perspective, Newcastle aren't really moving forward. Norwich have made a couple of signings, but none of them, other than maybe Billy Gilmore, doesn't really stand out or anything like that. All the teams that have got promoted haven't really moved forward a great deal. In terms of that bottom three, early days, of course. Who do you want to kind of predict as lock-ins? Who do you think are going to be that kind of relegation candidates?
See, originally I said Brentford would be down there, but I looked into a bit of Brentford and thought that they do a lot of sports science. They sort of analyse games and things like that. I only looked at it on the principle of, if Ivan Toney hits the ground running, who's to say that January comes, he's snapped up, he's been wanted for a while now, so who's to say nobody goes and snaps him up in January if he hits the ground running in the Premier League? Brentford are screwed.
Yep.
So I'd put them in and around there if that happens. But that's all if buts and maybes. I think a dead cert for me would be Watford, because, well, they changed their manager too many times in a season. I mean, you could change your manager once and it'd be more than Sean Dyche changes his formation in the seasons. But, they do change it. I mean, Watford changing managers is like a transfer window for them. We how many come in and go out. It's ridiculous.
It's mental. I've just never seen a team like it.
It is. It's heartbreaking for the fans, really, especially when they start bringing back old names that have already been there. You're sort of like, right, it didn't work the first time. But then we say that. Look at West Ham. They got lucky. They didn't want David Moyes coming back a second time, and look at what happened there.
Yeah, he has struck gold with them. Brentford are kind of a funny one, because I think I agree 100% on what you said. I think the entire season rides on Ivan Toney almost. And funnily enough, I think that he needs to just do okay. I think that if he does bad, they're screwed. I think if he does really well, for the exact reason you said, they're screwed. I think he needs to have like a 10, 12 goal season, do enough to
massively
keep him up, but kind of fly under the radar from those bigger teams. And I think that's a real big ask, because I think he is either going to flop or be an absolute beast. I don't think he is going to do that. I think he's going to do one or the other.
Oh, massively. He has got the skill set to do that as well, though. I mean, he's 26, 27, something like that. So he's still got a good couple of years in him, that even just one season in the Premier League could do him wonders. As long as for an outside looking in, I hope he does sort of a bit like an Amiyazaki with Wigan, or a Michu with Swansea, has just one good season and then just drops off the face of the earth. But
yeah, whatever happened to Michu, man? He was a hell of a player for a while there. A fantasy Premier League dream.
He was a classic player.
The opening game was quite a surprise. I feel like we haven't had an opening game around Burnley for a long time. I think the last one was where we played you all in the Championship like 10 years ago, beat you 3-1, and then we got relegated. So hopefully that's not yeah, I know. In terms of the game itself, what do you make of Brighton from the outside looking in? What do you expect to see this early on? I mean, preseason has been a strange one again. We haven't had a huge amount of big preseason build-up. All these international tournaments and stuff aren't going on. Like, all this stuff is kind of just very much in a bubble, right? Like, we played Luton, Rangers, and then we had Getafe, massive team, come and join us at the Amex this Saturday. And, I think you played Cadiz and a couple of others.
No, we did play Cadiz. We played Cadiz on Saturday and got beat 2-0.
Yep, we
played them yesterday.
Got beat 2-0 as well. It's going to be, I honestly feel like the first couple of games are going to be almost like a bridge between preseason and the actual Premier League, because of how short the preseason has been. What are you hoping to see from this Burnley side? What do you make of the Albion in general, from the outside looking in? And, what do you think you're going to see on Saturday?
I think you're going to see two teams that love to battle it out, whether it's the first game of the season or not. I think you just want to hit the ground running. Fans are back, away fans can travel, so we saw last season a lot more away teams were winning games than they were at home. So I do sometimes keep thinking of that. But I also said last season that the reason we probably lost a lot of games at home is because we didn't have fans. We're a sort of club that you fancy your 12th man. And once you're, we don't sit like boo them when we're 1-0 down or anything. We try to rally them up and say, look, lift your heads up, lads. There's still plenty of the game to go, which is really good. And I enjoy that because sometimes you can just get fans that get on your back. I do expect a very, very close encounter. I think it's going to be end-to-end. I think it's going to be quite open. Probably the first 10, 15 minutes is going to be, players finding their feet, getting a feel for the game. The physicality is going to come in, and the second half it's probably going to be cramped up players. And I don't see it being a goal fest either. It wouldn't surprise me if it's one of those opening day drab 0-0s, but
Would you
who
take
knows?
That?
It's the opening day. It's get the first one out the way, you move on to the next one, don't you? But
yeah,
I think when you look at it in perspective of the teams that you play in, I think you'd look at it the same as us, that's a team that we could potentially be around, come late February, early April and stuff. And so, yeah, getting points off these teams is vital. So, yeah, obviously a point shared on the opening day is not too bad. But, I mean, nobody wants to start with a loss. Put it that way.
Yeah. I always think for the teams that I think are going to be around us, I always earmark 3 points at home, 1 point away is optimal.
Yeah.
Take a draw away from home, beat them at your place, and you're putting some nice point gaps amongst you and the teams around you.
Massively.
Am I right in thinking Chris Wood is not available?
He is. He is available. He is. He started against Cadiz on yesterday. He also, he came back. I think he trained on the Thursday. Did a bit of media stuff Thursday afternoon or early Friday, and then Saturday started the game. So
you would expect him to be leading the line?
I'd expect him so, yeah. I'd expect him and Vidra again, probably, but who knows? I've been screaming out for Burnley to sign a pacey forward for years now, since the likes of, Andre Gray, Danny Ings. These players had a bit of pace with them. We always had someone with pace and a big lanky streak of piss that nods it onto you. We've had Sam. Yeah, exactly. You had it with Crouch and Defoe. It worked. It worked at Spurs. It worked at Portsmouth. So we had it with Vokes and Ings. Then we had it with Vokes and Gray. Even Vokes and Charlie Austin, worked for a while as well. But yeah, we've not got anyone really with bags of pace that can just knock a ball forward, turn a man, act on instinct. And usually, if we do have a player that acts on instinct, it's usually into crowd anyway.
Excellent. Last thing, I guess, then is, first of all, result prediction. I know you said maybe a drab 0-0. Is that what you're going to go with? I'm
going to go for 1-1. I know I said it's not going to be a goal fest, but I'm not going to say a drab 0-0. I'll say a hard-fought 1-1.
I would take it. And I'm inclined to agree. I think that we are going to draw. I think it's going to be quite a scrappy game.
Yeah.
In terms of the last thing I'd want to touch on is the changes to VAR and the added subjectivity that we're going to be seeing in the season ahead. Marginal offsides are now going to be subjective in terms of what does and doesn't count. And penalties are also going to become less harsh, is what they said the wording was. How do you feel about the changes in VAR and what that looks like for teams like us?
Too many changes every single season, not just to VAR, but even just to the rules of football. What happened to what was wrong with football They say don't change anything, don't fix something if it isn't broken. And they've just tried to implement stuff, and it's done nothing but ruin the game for fans. My uncle was he's a massive Sheffield Wednesday fan who lives down in Cornwall now, but he's lost the love of the game, and not just due to the fact they got relegated. May I add, he lost it. He lost it before that. He does check for their scores and things like that, but his passion for football's gone. He loves nothing more than going to watch Penzance football team play, which it's proper Sunday league stuff. Everyone just getting stuck in, going home, still sitting in the cars, caked in mud and stuff like that, and. That's what he misses, that old sort of style of play, which is great. I'd love that. Sometimes you watch clips of, players like Vinnie Jones and people getting booted here and there, left, right and centre. And now you can't even basically say hi to somebody, because if you put your hand up, that's it, you're booked. It's ridiculous. The only positive I have for VAR, as you say, is the fact that all this marginal stuff will stop. If you're flaming willy twitches, or your toes literally a little bit, a little bit flaming hanging to the side or whatever, if you don't cut your toenails, you're knackered. That's it. It's not fair. The same with handball. It can touch the top of here, but it can't touch any further. It's still technically handball. What are you playing at? Too many changes, too many rule changes, and it's the referees that get it. The referees that get it in the neck. And I don't think it should be the referees that get it in the neck, when it's the referees that are now basically being told you're too incompetent to do your job. Let's look at it on a screen. But nobody had any problems with human error before. You'd meet the opposition in the pub afterwards, or the cricket club down near our stadium. You'd have a chinwag about it. Oh, your referee were on your side, weren't he? And stuff like that. And that was it. And it'd be gone. Now it's all, we had to wait 6 minutes just because he thought this goal weren't that and that were that. And that's what we're spending most of our time talking about on Match of the Day now and things like that. It's all about VAR controversy here, and VAR ruins the game, or it's ridiculous. It is ridiculous. I'm all for stripping it back, taking it back to referees. Do have the monitor there, don't get me wrong, do have VAR, but don't use it to the context that it's being used. Just use it that if a referee's a little bit in doubt of a decision, he can just go over to the screen and go, I thought it were, right, I'll give it.
Yeah.
That way you're cutting all this crap out. If he thinks it's a goal, give it, right, and he's give it, fine, done. But the only other thing is probably introduce marking the referees up. Mark the referees up like they do in rugby, because at least then, okay, if you're on the game, you're not going to hear it. But if you're watching it on TV, or watching it back, and they can listen into what the referee's saying, we know that teams aren't just being, bullshitted because he favours that side over that side, or linesman's got a bet on opposition winning. You know what I mean? It's,
yeah, I think
it's
from
ridiculous.
My perspective, I have a bit of concern with the new rules based around the subjectivity introduction. They are no longer going to be showing. We can't see on TV what they're looking at anymore. They're taking that away.
That's the thing, though. They didn't show us much anyway. They said when this came in, we will see the decision. Fans will see that decision. All we've seen is VAR is checking. Not offside. That's it, yeah. That's all we're getting. We're not getting a visual of it. We're not getting it shown on the big screen. We're just getting some little fancy flaming image that someone's done on paint. Why would I, why would I be interested in that?
So I know off of the stadiums, you would get them on TV. So like over here, like if you're watching them on NBC, you get to see what they're seeing, and they're taking that away now too. And to me, like that, I will be very interested to see how much the big teams benefit from this introduction of subjectivity. Last season, there was really nothing. Like I think Arsenal were actually the biggest losers of it, and they only lost like 5 points on average. I would be interested to see. It's concerning to me. I think that it's just an added level of zero transparency. Like you said,
Yeah.
mic up the referees, like explain the decision. Like we shouldn't be getting less transparent because you know that this system isn't great. Like we shouldn't be going the other way and be like, well, if you don't like it, then we'll just not tell you anything. Just make the decisions in the background. Like what?
Exactly.
That's
I mean, people have said independent adjudicators at Stockley Park instead of referees' mates. You know, because no one wants to say, well, I thought that were a foul, or go against what the mate was saying. You know, if they're two referees that know each other quite well and they're just like, yeah, just give what you want, mate. Just give what you feel's right. That doesn't help the cause. You're there to do your job. If you think that that's that, or you can see it on the screen, and you've got the rules in front of you saying, right, that's dangerous play, or that's definitely a handball, then explain that. You know, I'd rather a mate tell me the truth if he saw my partner out with somebody else. If he was on a night out and he saw my partner cheating on me with somebody else, I'd expect him to tell me the truth, not come to me and say, oh, I saw your missus out the other night. And that's it.
Nothing else. Right. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Just tell it as it is. Tell it as it is. And just, it just annoys me. It really annoys me. I think I'd even be partial to sticking young up and coming referees that are still learning the trade. Stick them at Stockley Park instead. Yeah. Because they're going to learn the backstory of how it works in the Premier League. They're not just going to be looking at Sunday League level. They're going to get more of an understanding of what's to come future in their career. Okay, it may be looked at as no, because they'll be prone to errors. But if they're watching on a screen, as they do as fans, they know what's a foul and what's not a foul. Yep. It's pretty obvious. I mean, a fan can tell you what's a foul and what's not. Sometimes we do, when we're in stadium, say, oh, it's a foul to us, even though it's a foul to opposition. You just do it. Yeah. It's just fan perspective. But panto, isn't it? Yeah, of course it is. Of course it is. So, yeah, something's got to be done. I think part of me thinks this Super League stuff was put to the Premier League sides as sort of like a distraction from VAR. It wouldn't surprise me if there's sort of an element to that where it sort of takes away the element of people are just talking about VAR this and VAR that. Let's give them something else to talk about, to take their, turn a blind eye. We can do all these changes here while everyone's going, you're not leaving this league, blah, blah, blah. But conspiracies, we're all conspiracy theorists when we want to be. I mean, it's funny, isn't it? I was literally just saying like an hour ago on this stream that it's very interesting that the teams that begged, borrowed, and stealed and admitted that they had no money and they were desperate and this was to stay alive, like they needed a European Super League to be viable. Ben White for 50 million, Grealish for 100 million, Sancho for 75 million, Chelsea are bagging Lukaku for 100 million in a couple of days. Okay, where'd you find that money then? 3 months ago. Where did financial fair play go? Yeah, 3 months ago you were on the precipice of like disaster and you had to get it to the Super League. 3 months later you're spending like £350 million between you and being like, yeah, there might be more to come. Okay. It sometimes question, were they bribed by the Premier League to stay? Is that where this money's come from? Who knows? Don't sue me, Premier League. Anybody from the Premier League listening, don't sue me. I am just a conspiracy theorist. I am just a fan. Last thing, 2 questions. Who is your player to watch this season for Burnley, and where do you think you'll finish? Ooh, interesting. Player to watch this season. I can't rule out Dwight McNeil. Absolutely cracking little player. On his day, he's probably the only player we have with a sort of with flair, the technical ability to get down the byline and whip a decent ball in. We used to have that in abundance. We always used to love having decent wingers, and now we're playing centre mids as right wingers, and it's ridiculous. It really is. So I'd be torn between Dwight McNeil, and if Tarky does go, if James Tarkowski does leave, Nathan Collins is going to be a good shout. Because no matter what defender you put alongside Ben Mee, they will turn world class. He's done it with Tarkowski. He's done it with Michael Keane. He's turned them both into England internationals, being alongside him. I think he's a bit of an unsung hero, is Ben Mee, and probably a brilliant mentor to have at the side of you. So, yeah, Nathan Collins or Dwight McNeil, but Dwight McNeil gets more game time, so I'm going to have to go with him. In terms of position-wise, I always say that a solid 13th position would be fantastic, brilliant. You could still be in and around it points-wise, who knows? But 13th, I think, is a decent benchmark, a solid benchmark. But I'll be happy with 13th, 14th, 15th. Although Sean Dyche will probably say anything above 17th and we'll be happy. Here we go again.
Yeah, I can feel that. Brilliant. Dan, thank you so much for coming on and taking some time out of your Sunday afternoon for this.
Hey, not a problem.
We will we'll see how it goes next week. Best of luck for the rest of the season. Hopefully not too much luck next week, but other than that, I hope you do great. And yeah, have a good one, mate. Thank you.
No, cheers. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks, everybody. All right. And that is just about everything from our perspective here. So I am going to head out and the broadcast. And this podcast will be up tomorrow on Spotify, all that good stuff as well. I'm going to get to editing and push that through and we'll go from there as well. So we will see you all next week for the first match review of the season, Burnley away, and be safe.